Well, we've had lengthy debate on the bill tonight, and I would like to say this isn't it. This isn't it, and we have much, much more work to do. And you can't say what's good in the bill, but not being willing to say what needs to be done. The reason why I even took this legislation on was I remember in committee hearing Representative Dave Baker present a good bill. A good bill that was bold and courageous, and it made me respect him a great deal because I knew it wasn't easy. Because it is so hard to do this work. It is so hard. And that's why 2 years ago, that Representative Dave Baker did not come to the House floor for a vote. I would have remembered being able to vote for a bill that spent $20 million in ongoing revenue. I did not vote for that bill because I did not get the opportunity to. So we can't say what's good and how much you want to spend on all of these wonderful programs without actually holding your feet to the fire to do it, because it has not happened. And we are here today to make that happen. So to say you voted for these solutions in the past, you haven't. You haven't. It was one time $16 million in funding for some of these programs. It wasn't $20 million in ongoing revenue that withstands political turnover in the bodies of government that then decide on funding. This bill, it has so much because we know then that we have ongoing dedicated revenue to do the things we say we're for. It's easy to be for something when you don't have to stand on how you're going to do it. So today is the day that if you are for these things, if you are for treatment, prevention, and education, if you are for all of this, is the time to vote yes and show that you are for it. This is it. This is the bold and courageous action that I saw Representative Dave Baker make. And this bill has even gotten better over the last 2 years. But unfortunately, while we waited, as Representative Doubt mentioned, the death toll increases. So it's not our inaction, because we're putting forward a really good bill, and I'd happily have anybody else join me in co-authoring other pieces of legislation I have that spend general fund money. This isn't it, but it is what we need to do. And another thing about this bill that I keep coming back to the quote, and I don't remember who said it, after the final no, there is a yes, and the future of the world depends on it. And I feel like that's where we're in with this opioid crisis. And it's not the people that have profited, it's not the people that have much to gain from this that have come forward with the solutions, it's those that have lost everything. I don't spend my time sitting around with lobbyists that have been, paid to really work to solve this in big ways. I spend my time with a box of Kleenex in my office hearing the story of Minnesotans. That's who writes this legislation. That's who's doing it. Or you know who's solving this problem right now? You know who's solving it? One of the most effective programs I have heard about is coming out of White Earth. White Earth, who has been, as Representative Baker said, 6 times more likely Indigenous person is to die of an overdose. They're the most impacted by this, the least resources to fight this crisis, and they're doing it successfully. They were finding mothers addicted, having babies that were addicted. So first they started interventions with the babies. Then they realized, well, we want to keep our families together. Let's bring the moms in while we're also dealing with that. Then they realized there were dads out in the parking lot in the cars and said, why don't we bring the dads in too and treat this as a holistic family thing to try to keep these families together rather than removing the babies. Then they thought, well, what are some culturally appropriate, healing mechanisms that we have here? And they started doing beadwork with the families. And when families were dealing with addiction and they had something to focus on together, something that was culturally healing to them, they would do the beadwork. But then when they would get frustrated from the beads and have to learn how to deal with anger and emotions and mental health, they would have a sweat waiting for them. So they could go take part in another culturally appropriate way to deal with. So they created, even though they are the hardest hit by our crisis, have seen limited resources, if any, from our state to invest in that. They are the ones that develop the solution. So if we're waiting around for the pharmaceutical companies to come to the table with the solution, I'm sorry to say they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. What we have is the people most impacted. We have the woman driving in from Representative Miller's district, who I can't imagine how much windshield time she has thinking about this. Those are the people that are coming into my office, into the Capitol, who are truly here to work on a solution. And that's what this bill is. This bill is all of the people that have felt so alone, who have come together and said enough is enough. We're not waiting. We're not waiting. And today is the day to be bold and courageous, if that's what it takes. And it isn't even that bold and courageous. It really isn't. This is what we need to do. This is what we need to do to invest in Minnesotans, to hold accountable what needs to be held accountable, and do the right thing. Doing the right thing isn't always easy, and this bill has been even hard for me as a Democrat. There are people every day trying to stop this bill from happening. And we push on. We push on for all the families that have been here how many times telling these stories. We push on because we can do something today. This is a good bill. You can be proud to vote for this as it is. This is a really good bill. And I'm proud to have worked with so many people on this bill to make it what it is today. And I proudly ask for a green vote on this really good bill.